You know, I don't rightly know when I was born. I know I was born in Hickman County, Tennessee, in the year 1838. And I was either born in March, May, or October. So I celebrate my birthday March 15th, May 15th, and October 15th. That's because I can. My story starts, I was born a slave. I don't know who my mother was, and I don't know any family. The only thing I can recollect was I belonged to Judge Dunn. He was a hard kind of man, but he wasn't hard to me. My job, as soon as I can remember, was taking care of his daughter. Her name was Dolly. Dolly was a nice girl. She was a plain girl, but she was very friendly, and she loved me, and I loved her. A lot of my friends, they didn't like being on a slave. They didn't like being a slave. Being a slave was hard. Slaves didn't have last names. They wrote our name down on this thing called a slave schedule. The plantation owner had to file with the United States government every year. That was his income tax. He had to put on that slave schedule how many slaves he owned. Sometimes, some slave owners actually gave them names, and some did just by numbers. And they did by the number, how old the oldest person was to the youngest person. But Mr. Dunn gave us names. So my friends, Mary, I need to get away from here. I need to get across the Mason-Dixon line. Well, I don't know how to tell them to get across the Mason-Dixon line. And what you going to do when you get there? I don't know. It's better than here. So we had ways of, getting to the Underground Railroad. Did you know there were 2 Underground Railroads? One went north, and where did the other one go? Went across the Gulf to Mexico and across the Mississippi to Indian Territory. Americans wouldn't let the slave hunters get you, and neither would the Mexican people. So the people here in Texas, we didn't run north. We just went to Indian Territory, which was up around the corner, or we went across the border to Mexico. So how would you get there? So we had signals. When you're going down the roads, you see the mailbox. Mailboxes are straight. When you saw one that was slightly angled to the right, that meant that was north. Also, the most one plain hidden in sight was Jocko. I hated Jocko. When I was a kid, every time I see that little statue, it's a little black boy in jockey clothes with his hand like this. Every time I see that statue, I knock it over. My mother beat the crap out of me one day by doing that. And she told me who Jocko was. Jocko was George Washington's slave boy. He took care of his horses. When George Washington crossed the Delaware, Jocko stood there and was holding his horse. When they came back for him and the horse, Jocko had froze to death with his hand like this. So George Washington made him a medal and made honor, and had people make a statue of him. So that's what Jocko represents. But his hand is like this, so his hand is also pointing to the north. And that's how they would get away. See, I had a good life. Why was I going to run away? Dolly taught me how to read and write. And she was nice to me. So then the Civil War ended. Man, freedom, 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 freedom. Well, what does freedom mean? Hell, I didn't know that I had a hard time. So now I have to go out and get a job. Most people stayed on the plantation that they was at. Where was they going to go? They had no money. They had no way of taking care of themselves. Most of them stayed, but a lot went west. So I decided I was going to go work on the river. I went and got me a job on a steamboat. The primary kind with the big steam and big roller rolling down the river. That was hard work, but I'm used to doing hard work. I chopped the wood to go in the steam engine, and then I started drinking this wonderful thing. It's brown. It's oh so good. You can't drink it real fast. Ooh, it's whiskey. Man, this is the best thing, because when you're cold, my God, that was the best thing. And also, develop a taste for cigars. So I started smoking cigars and drinking whiskey. I mostly did that to calm myself, because can you imagine, most of the places that I went, I was the only black person there. I was kind of lonely because I didn't have no family. People were afraid of me because I'm 6 foot tall and I weigh 200 pounds. And I'm very aggressive, and I don't back down. So, but, that leads to a lonely life because people are afraid of you. And once that are afraid of you, they shun you because you're black. So I worked on the riverboat for about 7 years. And then I heard that Dolly, she went off to Toledo, Ohio to join the nunnery. And I'm like, why would she want to be a nun? Well, she went there. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go across that Mason-Dixon line because all my friends are over there and they're having a good time. So I want to see what it looked like in Toledo. So I go to Toledo. Man, do you know this is wonderful? So many people. Where's all these people? Where did they come from, Lord? I didn't know there's many people in the world. I lived on the plantation. It was maybe 50 of us on our plantation. And my world was the plantation. I never went off the plantation. Never. Until I was free. It's got this thing there. It's called a saloon. That's where people go and hang out. So I started hanging out in the saloons. I did odd jobs to make my living. And so when Dolly went and joined the nunnery, they changed her name from Dolly to Sister Amadeus. So she tells me, she said, we're finna go off to Montana. What? Montana? Why I want to go to Montana? Montana? I ain't going to Montana. That's like being black on the plantation. Ain't nobody over there but a whole bunch of Indians and crazy people and bank robbers and bears and things that might eat me. So I ain't going. So she left. Me and I'm still having a good time in Toledo. I'm having a good time. This time I started wearing a gun because all these men are walking around with a gun. I thought that made them look tough, so I got to be just as tough as them too. So I started wearing a gun. It was a 38. Then I bought me a little Derringer that I kept here in my apron. And then I bought me one of them big Jed Clampett shotguns. So I'm really tough now. I'm really a badass. So I get word that Sister Amadeus, she got pneumonia. They sent word back for me to come, and she paid my stagecoach fare for me to come. Man, I love her. I can't let her die. So she paid for me to ride on the stagecoach. They made me ride on the top of the stagecoach. You know how cold it is on top of the stagecoach? You know how that feels? I don't know. It seemed like it took eternity to get there. As soon as we pull up to the mission, one of the little nuns run up to the stagecoach, and I'm getting down, having a hard time getting down. Well, how was the ride? I looked at that gal. I said, get away from me. Just give me a cigar and some whiskey. But that offended her. Oh. So I went on and went to see Sister Amadeus. So I get in there. So I'm calling her Dolly. And she's telling me, you can't call me Dolly. My name is Amadeus. Whatever. So I nurse her. She showed it heal quick because I got there. 3 days after I got there, she's well up and walking around. She just did that to make me come here because I wouldn't come with her in the first place. I told her I didn't want to be up here. So now I'm here at the mission. So she tells me, we're going to build a school for these Indian girls. Okay, so I did all the hauling. I chopped all the wood. I did all the freight hauling. I chopped all the hoes. I cut the grass. Them nuns, they make me crazy. They wait till I clean the yard and cut it. Then they walk across there and throw paper and trash on it. So I cuss them out. So they go complain to Sister Amadeus. She don't do nothing about that. It took 8 years to build the mission, the school. So the 5th year that we built the mission, the bishop came. The bishop didn't like me. He didn't like that I was on a first name basis with his mother superior. And he heard me kept calling her Dolly. He didn't really like that. And some of the nuns didn't like me either because I cussed them out. Because they were doing it on purpose. They wait till I clean and then they mess it up. And then I have to clean it up again. So we had this relationship. So took 8 years to finish the mission. So I'm still on there. I'm still doing all the heavy lifting, wood cutting and all this. They pay me $9 a month. They hired this shiftless cowboy. Have you ever heard of a name Yuck Duck Yuckum? His name is Yuck Duck Open. He is the laziest, shiftless, no-count person I ever seen. He don't even deserve to get $1. That's no $7 a day. He complained about that. I make $9 a month. He makes $7 a month. The people back in New York, they make $5 working in a sweatshop. So I'm making more money than the people in these, and I'm making more money than him. He didn't like that because, first of all, I'm a woman, and then I'm black. He went and complained to the bishop. The bishop didn't do anything about that because the bishop know that I'd work him any day of the week and everybody else there. So only solitude I get is where I go in town. So I go in town to hang out in the saloon and I drink my whiskey. And I smoke my cigars. Now, I'm not a drunkard. I start off with a shot, then end it with double. It takes me all night to drink these true drinks. I'm not alcoholic, and I go there because, once again, I'm lonely. I'm the only black person there. And that's a hard thing. I'm the only black person there, and definitely there's no mates for me there. So this is why I go there, to get some peace, because I can't smoke and drink at the mission. He comes to town, comes to town and complaining to the people there, saying he don't think it's right that a uppity black nigger get paid more than he get paid. He even have the nerve to come to the saloon that I hang out at. They have their saloons, we have our saloons. I'm in my saloon minding my business. He comes over there with that. I said, God, what am I going to do about this person? He keep working my nerves. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to get rid of him. His only job that he's supposed to do is clean the latrine. So I said, tomorrow when he goes to clean the latrine, I'm going to wait and I'm going to ambush him. He's in there cleaning the latrine. So I'm waiting for him. I'm waiting and waiting. He's staying there 2 hours. What is he doing for one seat? What is he doing? And it's cold, and I'm shivering. Oh, God, when is he going to come out? So he came out. I said, I was shaking so I said, pow! I missed him. He said, oh! So he got his gun. Pow! He's shooting at me. Pow, pow! I'm shooting at him. We shot. Neither one of us wasn't a good shot. Only thing that got shot was the bishop drawers. So that was the last straw for the bishop. He could not stand that. So, of course, it had to be my bullet that hit his drawers. So he made Sister Amadeus farming. So now, I'm in Cascade hanging out in the saloons all day long. Well, she couldn't stand that. So she came and got me. So she opened up this cafe. She know good and well that I can't cook that good to be trying to run no cafe. So she sent the nuns over there to help me cook. But that didn't do no good because when people came and they told me they didn't have no money, I fed everybody. So after 3 years, she finally decided, well, you know, she can't keep supporting me doing this. So that closed. She heard about this job in Cascade. So we go from Cascade to Helena, where the postmaster is. They're supposed to open up a straight line to Helena and to Great Falls. That's a 150-mile stretch, notorious roads, rocks, and through Indian territory. So she goes over and tried to convince him to hire me. He said, no, I just can't hire her outright. We're going to have a contest. So you have to hook up 6 teams to the stagecoach and 2 to a buckboard. That's 8 horses. You got to hook up. And the person that does the fastest do it. So the contest started. I get the horses. 2, 2, 2, 2. Then you have to put the bridle on. Then you have to hook them to the yoke and hook them to the stage. I did that. I'm 60 years old. I beat all these 25, 40-year-old men. So I win the route. Man, wow, this is nice. Because I got 2 cities where I can go and hang out in the saloon and learn other people. On my routes, I had to go through Indian territory. I came across Native Americans. They had never seen no black person. And surely one not as big and bad as me. So they liked me for some reason. Or maybe they was afraid of me. So they taught me stuff. They taught me herbs. They taught me what herb to use when you're sick, what herbs to use to bring down fever. And when the ladies having problems, they taught me those herbs to use those things. So I learned all those things. That became useful. So I'm doing my mail route, and they didn't let me drive a stagecoach. All the mail in 1800 wasn't delivered on a big stage like you see on the westerns, that the stage rolled in and he throw the mail out. Now, most of the mail was delivered in a bugboard because those people also carried freight. Only mail that came on the stage line is when the stagecoach brought people to town. They would bring extra mail. But the everyday mail was carried by carriers like me in a bugboard because I had to haul freight too. Most of the people were called move schooners, but for some reason, they started calling me Black Mary. Black Stagecoach Mary. That's me. I love that name. So one day, I'm in Great Falls. I'm just hanging out over there, and I hear this, it's raining and it's thundering real hard. Oh my God, I forgot to cover the load. So I get out there, and my mule name is Moses. So I get out on my buck, hit music. So we run, we going. I'm trying to get back to the mission. Before it mess up the load. When you know it, I hit a rock and poof, thumped me this way. Supplies went there, Moses went out that way. So it's all the supplies are wet. So I uprighted my wagon, I go catch Moses, and when I get to the mission, Sister Amadeus is like, I know what you were doing, you was hanging out in them saloons, I done told you about that. So you know what, you're going to have to pay for all this supplies that you wasted. She took my pay for 2 months for that. Man, she was tough. That didn't stop me. So I'm still delivering my mail. You know, it's very important that me carrying the mail. Not only did I carry letters, I carried claims. You know, there were a lot of miners. Remember, these are people of homestead. Your homestead claim had to be filed. Your mining claim had to be filed. So I did that, and I delivered the mail on time. So it had to get there by a certain time. So I made sure that I made it on time. When it was snow, I carried the mail. I walked and carried the mail on my back. Rain, sleet, or snow, that came from me, because I walked in rain, sleet, and snow. I did that. One day, I'm hanging out in Helena again. So, oh man, I got to get going. So I'm going. Me and Moses again, we're going, and a pack of wolves scare Moses. So I go again. I end up in more ditches because the road is narrow. It's treacherous roads, 150 miles, and it's winding down the hill. So you had to go down or you had to go up. Either way, it was very treacherous, and it was very dangerous. So I'm in the ditch again. Oh my God, this happened again. So I had to stay up all night long at bay, lighting fires to keep the wolves from attacking. So when the sun came up, I'll ride my mules in my buggy and I get back to town. I carry the mail. I do this for 10 years. I made over 2,000 runs. I never lost any mail. I damaged a lot of freight, spoiled a lot of goods for the mission, but I never ever lost any mail. I never lost anybody's claim or anybody's homestead claim. So that made the people in Cascade love me. And so when I retired for that, this Sister Amadeus again, she opened up me a laundry. Man, she keep giving me these businesses. I don't want these businesses. I want a lot of gas. She ain't having that. So I got this laundry. So I'm doing the laundry. So one day this guy, he don't want to pay me $2 because he told me he put extra starch in his shirt. He said I didn't put enough, whatever. So once again, I'm at my favorite saloon. He comes in there bragging. Yeah, she didn't put the starch in my shirt, and I ain't paying her. She just a uppity, whatever. I walked over there and tapped him on his shoulder. When he turned around, I said, pow! I knocked him out. You know, I had a standing bet of $10. I shot his good old whiskey. That I could knock any man out with one punch. I broke over 400 noses in Cascade. They finally quit taking me up on my bet. I had plenty of money for knocking out noses and knocking out men. So, in the meantime, Abner Doubleday, he was the commander of the 24th Infantry. He was stationed at Fort McCabe, Texas. He invented this thing. What did he invent? The great American pastime? Baseball. So baseball is getting popular. So these baseball teams sprang up on all these American towns. So we had a baseball team, and all the other, I supplied the uniform for the baseball team, and I was always the umpire. Of course, I was partial to Cascade, but they let me get away with cheating. because I would cheat. Yes, I would. See, they love me. So we did that for years and years. And then finally one day, my laundry burned down. Man, it's like, what am I going to do now? The people of Cascade put their money together and built it back up. So I ran that laundry until I got too old to work. So the mayor of the town paid for me to have a room in the local hotel. So I stayed in the local hotel as long as I wanted to, and I hung out in the saloon. And I did that until the day I died. Thank you. Got any questions?
Stagecoach Mary, tell us about what you did for the children.
Yeah, for the children, I delivered all the kids, mostly in Montana, and I delivered this famous movie star, Gary Cooper. He wrote the autobiography of Mary Fields. Most of the stuff you see online, they take bits and pieces from his documentary on her. It's actually a film with Mary in there. I delivered to most of the kids, and I took care of all the kids. And like I said, I paid for them to have a baseball team.
Now tell them why. I think they probably figured it out. But when you delivered the mail, bandits didn't seem to bother you. Tell them why.
They didn't bother me because, like I said, I was 6 foot tall and I weighed 200 pounds, and I had this big old Jed Clemby shotgun and a pistol and a Derringer. So I was a force to be reckoned with. And see, they heard about me having a shootout with Yuk Duck. So they knew I could shoot, but they really didn't know I didn't know how to shoot that good. That's why I shotgun. But they was afraid of me. Because once I knocked up over 400 men out. So that's why the bandits, they didn't bother me.
Okay. How old were you when you retired, and how old were you when you passed away?
79 and 82. Can you imagine at 60 years old starting a job? 150 miles of treacherous up and down grades. Yes, sir?
Well, thank you for bringing the story of Stagecoach Mary alive today. Are there some key messages in the story that speak to us today?
Yes. Like I said, Mary was the only African-American female there in Cascade, Helena, and Sioux Falls for a long time. She was brave, she was strong, and she had to be tough. She had to cuss because that was her way, that was her mechanism for dealing with prejudice. And she dealt with it on an everyday basis. And she was a lonely person. And also, nobody can tell you what you can do. No matter how old you are, you can do whatever you decide to do.
Thank you again for doing what you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful, and thank you. I appreciate the tenacity that brought you here today. It's freezing, it's cold.
Yes.
But you came with a smile and you did your job. What makes you you?
Well, I've been a natural storyteller. See, I started off, my whole family is military. My ancestors came here with the first 300 men, and they were Buffalo soldiers. And then every man in my family has been in the Army since then. And we're also cowboys and cowgirls. I'm in the National Cowboys of Color Hall of Fame. I was inducted in 2006 for All Around Cowgirl. And when we did the rodeos, back before it became the Will Pickett Rodeo and the Cowboys of Color Rodeo, it was the Negro Rodeo. And we had to do other things besides just riding horses. So my grandpa told these stories. Most of these stories I'm telling you, I learned from my grandfather. And I asked him were they true. He said, read. You can read, learn, and see. So that's what made me do this. And then I like to inspire. My mission, our focus is 2018. I said, it is time for us to take over our legacy. You know, everybody been telling our story. It's time for us to tell our story. And I have been telling my story, our story, ever since I was 7. So I make sure that I tell documented history. I don't tell you anything that I can't find from the National Archives, from the United States Census, See, it's a lot of stories about Mary, but mostly what I told you is from the film that Gary Cooper did and from the United States Census. So my focus, and it's the focus of North Texas, Texas Buffalo Soldiers Association and Lakeside Riders, is to take care of our history. And I want to make sure that all young people, white, black, green, and orange, know the true history, documented history.
Thank you. Are you talking about kind of like our roots? And when I say our, I'm not speaking particularly for black people.
Yes, ma'am.
Black women. I'm talking about on your trail, you met many women, or were you the only one that was in a field of standing up and standing out?
Well, at first, like when we started doing the rodeo, I was the only girl for a long time because blacks weren't supposed to ride horses. And
will you tell us why?
Because, see, most black people, when we stopped being slaves, we left the farms, right? Yeah. So it is, we as blacks have a stigma about being a slave. We don't want to have nothing to do with that history. But that's what makes you strong, because those people were strong. They lived through slavery. So they don't want to have anything to do with riding horses, being farmers, or anything like that. They come to the city, they cityfied. That made them become consumers.
Okay.
And that made them be independent instead of, they became dependent instead of independent. So and then the deal about being a buffalo soldier. My grandpa told me about Kathy, the girl. She was 16 when she stuck in the army. And so I started doing that story. And it's very hard because it's all men. And then I get more opposition from the men than I did from the women.
Okay. Well, there was a buffalo soldier in Tulsa back in 2000.
Yeah, 2000.
Yeah. And
was his name Wallace Moore?
Yes.
How did I know that?
Because you know him. You know where he was.
Yes, he's Bass Reed's great grandson. So Wallace and I, we go all over the United States, and we talk about our ancestors.
Okay. You are so unique. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm not unique, but thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for such an inspirational story. I'd never heard of Stagecoach Mary, so brought my son here. Question that I have is, when did she get her freedom?
At the end of the Civil War in 1865.
Okay, 1865. And where's she buried?
In Montana, in Cascade, between Cascade and Helena on the road. And it's a monument there. It's been defaced, but every couple of years they fix it. And when you go in Cascade, the National Bank of Cascade used to have a picture of Mary hanging in there.
Okay, thank you.
Also, I would like to, how old is your son?
I'm 16.
Would you like to be a Buffalo Soldier? See First Sergeant Warren back there? We can hook you up. I happen to be president of Texas Buffalo Soldiers. I'm the first lady to be that, by the way.
Tell them about the Lakeside Riders.
Lakeside Riders for Youth Outreach and Community Service came about because, like I said, we was a riding club, and these kids kept being in my barn. And I'm like, what are y'all doing? How come you're not in school? This boy said, well, I got expelled for the whole year. It's on the third day. How you get expelled? I didn't believe him. So I went over to his school, and I went off on his principal. And the principal said, okay, here, take this paper. You go over here to Forest Hill. So I go to Forest Hill. I noticed that it said Forest Hill Probation Department, but it still ain't clicking in my mind while I'm going over here. So I go over there, and I start going off on them people. So every person I go off on, each one of them writes something and give me a paper and send me to another person. Finally, I got to the judge, and this is the judge over the Probation Department of Tarrant County. He said, how many kids come by your barn every day? I said, about 10 or 15. I said, but right now I got 3 boys that need to be in school. He said, well, can you take care, do they be over there every day after school? I said, yes. So he said, well, if you keep them in school and get them to graduate, I'll make sure that you have funding for your program. I said, what program? He said, well, you're doing community service. I said, what? My big mouth got me in community service. And that's how Lakeside got started. And I have helped over 2,000 kids.
One other question, again, thank you for being here, but one other question was she ever married? Did
No.
she have any children?
No. She was the only black person there for a long time. And by the time she became 80 years old, there was more blacks in the area, but they came with families. And she adopted them, you know, she helped deliver those and take care of those kids. She was a great babysitter because she let kids do whatever they want to. And who was going to bother somebody's kids when they was with Mary?
Thank you so much again. Mary, did you ever make it back to Texas?
Oh, Mary wasn't from Texas. She was from Tennessee.
Okay.
No, ma'am. She never. No, when she left Tennessee, she went to Toledo, and she was intending to stay in Toledo, but Sister Amadeus had other plans. That's how she got to Montana. No, she died in Montana.
Thank you so much again, too. As far as Dolly or Sister Amadeus, what happened to her?
Well, she died too. She died before Mary did. And that's probably what broke Mary's heart.
Didn't Sister Amadeus teach you how to read and write?
Yes, I said that at the beginning.
I mean, I was...
Yes, Sister, yes. See, the thing about Dolly, when she taught Mary how to read and write, that was against the law. Slaves was supposed to know how to read and write. So Dolly broke the law. Mary was strong. She was determined. She lived a hard life, where she was courageous and brave.
One of the lessons I learned from today, you can get any job at the age of 60 or over.
Exactly.
I need to hear that one. Mm-hmm. Questions, comments? Okay, back here in the back. This gives me my exercise. That's all right.
Well, it's obvious that Mary had love for children. Was there ever a time when she was involved with the children at the school that she helped build?
Yeah, she took care of, she babysitted. She babysitted the kids at school. She babysitted the kids in town. Everybody loved them. You know, they honored the people that, you know, in every town there's the people that love you, and then those are those idiots. But most of the people there loved Mary because she delivered half of them, and she took care of them and she took care of people when they were sick.
Oh, so she was a midwife too?
She was a midwife. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, comments? Yes.
I apologize. I just couldn't find the place when I first left home. And I'm sorry. I missed some things. So forgive me if I ask some questions.
That's why I'm here.
Thank you. Was she a tobacco chewer?
No, ma'am. She smoked this for my cigar. She smoked home rolled cigars, but she smoked cigars.
Okay.
She smoked cigars and she drank whiskey. You know, and see, this is what made me mad about undocumented stuff. If you look at what Gary Cooper said, he told you that she only drank a shot and a double shot all day long. In all the other stories, it's like she had this whiskey in her boot and all that. Well, Mary didn't wear boots. She was like this. And she didn't carry whiskey around all day long.
Was she a religious woman also?
They never meant that, but I'm sure she had to be because, to be in a situation that she was in, you had to have some kind of faith. I mean, you're the only black person here, and you're a female, so you're very vulnerable. So you got to have faith that God is going to make sure that you make it through this day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. She lived through slavery, remember? Even though she had it good. Mm-hmm.
Okay, she was a woman. She had feelings. Even though she never married, was her heart ever broken?
No, he doesn't cover that in the documentary. So I can't say if her heart was broken, but I'm sure that's what I say. She was lonely. I know she was lonely because she states that she was lonely. See, so that meant that no man maybe she never had a male companion. I'm sure, every woman's desire is to have a man. So whether he comes or not, And then, you know, when he don't come, then you get over that.
You deal with it.
You deal with it. That's what made her so strong.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
This nice lady. Any of you ladies want to put on this frontier dress and take a picture? I bought a dress. I made it fancy. I put lace up the front, but it's called a day dress. Ladies wore a day dress, or they wore a skirt, and they had 2 aprons. They had a work apron, and they had a visiting apron. When they go to town, they would put on a clean apron, and they wore an apron on their dress every day.
I'm old enough to remember when my grandmother wore one.
Mm-hmm. That nice lady had a question, and that man.
Yeah, so you talk about drinking whiskey and smoking cigars. Was that just because she wanted to be tough, or was there something else behind that? Why would she go into the saloon?
Relaxation.
As a black lady?
Relaxation. She went into the saloon because she was lonely.
Okay.
Even though you're not conversating with people, but you're still in a room full of people. And then every now and then somebody might, hey, Mary, so, you know, and she's sitting there sipping her whiskey and smoking her cigar.
Was it a mix of white and black in there, or was it a separate?
No, they had separate.
They had separate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
At first, when she first went there, it was 2 kind of saloons. And in every town, you have a saloon that the rich people go to, and you have a saloon that the poor people go to. The saloon that the poor people go to was integrated everywhere.
What did she wear most of the time? So she wore a dress.
This is a skirt. She wore a skirt. She wore a skirt and men breeches under there, so that she can put a derringer. And she had this apron. She put a derringer in her apron.
And where did she live when she moved to Montana? Did she live?
She lived at the mission. And then when the bishop kicked off the mission, she lived in the hotel. Okay. See, Sister Amadeus paid for her to be in the motel, so she stayed in the hotel. They had a hotel in there. She stayed in the hotel.
This picture obviously was taken, it was in the wintertime, because all the clothing looks very layered and very thick.
But everybody in the West, see, that's a myth. Everybody in the West, their clothes were wool. Their clothes were wool until like 1904. Most of all the clothes, everybody, their clothes was wool. You wore wool because it breathed. It would keep you warm in the winter, and it keep you cool in the summer, because once you sweat, you know, it would cool you off. But lots of people had wool allergies. That's why they quit making wool clothes. See, her skirt is wool. Her coat, that's a man's coat. That's a man's coat that she has on. It's wool. It's all wool. And the little beanie she have on is wool. See, and you can't see her boots, but she have on boots. All the clothes was wool. When you know, there's a book out called Going West, and it tells you what kind of clothes to wear. I should have brought that. Next time I come, I'll bring that book. It tells you what kind of clothes to wear when you come west. And ladies, everybody have a deal about wearing a bonnet. A bonnet protects you. Why? What was out on the prairie that you did not want to get? You didn't want to get deer ticks, buffalo ticks. You didn't want to get ticks in your hair. A lot of women, when they first start coming across the West, they die from tick. You hear them talking about she got tick fever. That's what they talk about. They talk about the ticks from rabbits, all ticks. So that's why a lot of ladies kept their hair up and they put on a bonnet. A bonnet. Clothes in the 1800s, clothes was not a fashion statement. If you notice, the shoulder on my shirt is down here instead of up here. Modern shirts are up here. This is because people had to work, or if you're a soldier, you had to fight. You can't fight with tight. How you gonna fight with a shirt like this? That's why they were baggy like this. And it was for working. A lot of people did manual labor back then.
Just wanted to make sure I heard you said she got to meet Indian people.
It's very difficult to be in Montana and never see an Indian, what we call Indians.
Okay.
The Sioux, yes, she did. They liked it, Mary, and they talked. And see, this is why I say our program is diverse. When the settlers, frontier people, see, you're pioneers. You're on the east side of Mississippi. This is play with words. On the west side of the Mississippi, you're frontier. Because remember, this is the last frontier and we're still in the west. So when the people came here, who taught them about the plants and everything here? The Native Americans and the Mexicans. And they taught Mary, you know, she conversed with what we call their medicine man. And they taught her all the herbs and stuff. Mm-hmm.
When John Smith at Jamestown conversed with the Indians, he wrote in his diary they have over 300 medicines.
Yes.
And that was in 1609.
And that was on the east side. It's tons more.
300 medicines.
Yes.
And guess how many were in Europe? About 300 medicines. So
Mm-hmm.
they had an advanced system. Any other questions? I want to introduce you. Come on down.
Yeah, yes, after you introduced First Sergeant, and I got another Buffalo soldier over here.
Okay. Let me introduce him.
No, ladies, you know y'all can be Buffalo soldiers too.
Yeah, because she was one.
I still am.
Still am. Tell them about what your name in both real life and what you do as an interpretive actor.
Well, my name is Clinton Warren, and I spent 25 years in the military, active duty myself as an infantryman. But like the commander said, this is my commander. She's the commander of the North Texas Buffalo Soldiers Association, and I'm the first sergeant of Company E of the 24th Infantry Regiment and stuff. And because the infantry is near and dear to my heart and stuff, I always choose the infantry soldiers like John Ward, people like spend a little time with the infantry. They always talk about Flipper. I know everybody heard about Flipper, the first graduate of West Point, but the one I love the most is Alexander. Mm-hmm. He was the second graduate from West Point, and he had a great career, but you know, no one ever talks about it. In the infantry, we don't get that much glory because we don't ride horses, but the West still went forward because of the infantry and stuff.
And the Native Americans were actually afraid of infantry because when they first came, they still had that Daniel Bone looking gun and they had that bayonet about this long. So the first thing you do to take out anybody on a horse, what the first thing you're going to do? You stab his horse and now he on the ground with you. So the Americans were afraid of the infantry more than they was the cavalry.
Because if the infantry had to go 200 miles, they had to march. So you were pretty pissed off when you finished a 200-mile march.
I want to thank you for your service, both as an actor and in real life.
Yes, I got that young man right there. He had his hand up, and then we're gonna go. Mm-hmm.
I want to show that musket.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know muskets, that's almost over 5 feet tall.
Yes, my gun is taller than me.
It is only taking about 3/4 of her body. So she was 6 feet, what, 6?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She'd have to be maybe even 7 feet tall.
She was 6 foot. She was 6 foot even. But a musket, my musket with the bayonet on it is taller than I am, and I can't fire it.
Was anything built that century still here today?
Yes, the mission is still there. Mm-hmm.